here to talk about the law firm of the future. What's interesting is that the minister spoke about it yesterday. If you were here yesterday, you'll remember he touched on a few topics. He spoke about the fact that load shedding is impacting on practice. He said, this is going to impact on how we do business in the future as lawyers. But what I'd like to ask is who's willing to admit that they're running a law firm of the past? If you're running a law firm of the past, please put your hands up. We're going to fix it today. All of you. Yes. I hope by the end of it, you realize that even if you think you're running a law firm of today, that there are ways that we're going to fix it, make it better. So that as lawyers, and Mr. Govender raised a really important point. I spoke in 2016 at the Law Society AGM, and we did a little computation about how much it would cost for a young lawyer setting up a tech-enabled practice. It was 10,771 rand. That's what the calculation was. I can circulate that little spreadsheet. And in there were subscriptions and fidelity fund and all those costs. I don't know, the way things are going, it'll be 10,771 for just subscriptions. But I'm not here to talk about that. So what are we talking about today? We're going to look at what it's going to take to have a law firm of the future, even today. Okay? We're not going to wait 5 years. We're going to start you on your road today. We're also going to chat about what challenges you're going to face in trying to set that up. And I'm going to give you some tips on what you can do to overcome those challenges. So, before we get into that, everybody's talking about ChatGPT 4. Not ChatGPT 3. 4 came out a few weeks ago. 3 came out in November last year. But everybody, if you follow tech law, everybody's saying, ooh, lawyers' jobs are on the line. We're all going to get kicked out. Everybody's going to be drafting contracts using ChatGPT, etc., etc. No, lawyers are not. Let me just read what I said. Lawyers are safe. Your job's safe. ChatGPT and software like CoCounsel. Who's heard of CoCounsel? Nobody. It is there we go. A couple. It is an amazing piece of technology. It's targeted at lawyers based on ChatGPT. And it churns out agreements, NDAs, memoranda, advisory notes, scary stuff. But why I say you shouldn't worry is that's still a way down the line. And if there are candidate attorneys here, my apologies to you, you're just starting out. But the opinions that it produces are sort of like a candidate attorney or a paralegal perhaps. You have to fix it up. So we are not going to be losing our jobs. We're going to be here for a while. Okay. What you need to be scared of, though, is the alternative legal service providers. They are going to start using that, and they're going to start taking away our work, the basic work that is repetitive, like wills, which is already heading in a different direction, basic contracts, etc. So worry about that. Look at those guys. Keep an eye on them. And if you can, start using this technology. Yes, important point. It's expensive at the moment, but it is going to come down. So start using that technology. All right. I've got probably about 7 minutes. I'm going to fly on to the next slide. Right. What's the typical law firm of the future going to look like? It's not going to be big. I'm sure 80% of us here are from small solo firms or 2 or 3 partner type firms. My view is that the big firms, you're either going to be very big or you're going to be small. Perhaps a few medium-sized firms. Overheads are going to be low. Please, people, we don't need fancy offices. I saw something crazy the other day, and some of the tech lawyers might agree with what was done. But a law firm based in Atlanta, with big fancy offices, went and spent some ridiculous amount of Bitcoin to buy a plot of land in the metaverse. That's just taking it to, it's crazy. So you don't need fancy offices here. You don't need fancy offices in the metaverse. For those of you who know what it is, you'll be able to practice efficiently and profitably without having huge overheads. You're going to be working in a hybrid way. You don't need to go into the office every day. Why? It's not necessary. If you set yourself up efficiently, properly, using technology that is available today and that's reasonably priced, you can work from home and you can go into an office once or twice a week. You can share that space. One of the objectives that my firm has is we're in quite a tiny space. We work open plan. I sit next to candidate attorneys, I sit next to the other lawyers. No fancy offices. Why do you need fancy offices? You know, the days of that hierarchy are gone. So you're going to save on those costs as well. It's going to be very technology enabled. You're going to use your phone. You're going to use fancy laptops. You're going to use iPads, other devices. You're going to have UPSs very soon that are going to power your stuff for an entire day. And they're not going to be expensive. You're going to be multi-skilled. Who knows how to tweet here? Or let me put it the other way. Who doesn't know how to tweet? A couple. Who doesn't know how to post on LinkedIn? Who doesn't know how to install antivirus on a laptop? Okay. Who doesn't know how to set up rules on your email, Outlook or Gmail? Do you know what rules are? We're going to be sorting you out. You're going to be rolling after this, all of you. So you're going to have to learn all of those things. Why? Because they make your practice a lot more efficient. Think about being able to automatically read those emails that the Law Society sends to you. Yesterday, the representative from Limpopo province was complaining that emails go out from the Law Society and nobody ever reads them. I'm a culprit as well. They go into a folder that I've created. And I forget to go into that folder. But if you use rules, you'll be able to set up something that sends an SMS to you to say, hey, there's an email, and it's not going to cost you anything more. It's already there on your system if you're using something like Microsoft Office. Okay. So you'll develop those skills as well. You're not just going to be a lawyer reading case law. And then lastly, you're going to collaborate more with people. Different professions. I know we do it now, but you're going to have much tighter arrangements in place. We work very closely. ICT law is our speciality, with cyber forensics people, with IT people, with other expert witnesses. And we have semi-formal arrangements with them and with other lawyers in the field. So if we need extra IT lawyers who are experienced, we call them in. Mr. Snell was here yesterday. He spoke a bit. Those are the sort of people we work with. Yeah. So, what challenges are we going to face? Alternate legal service providers are going to give us quite a run for our money, smaller firms particularly. Those are the fellows who are doing basic contract reviews. Those are the fellows who are doing wills. I can't remember the name of the one company that had a major marketing campaign last year. Those people are going to use technology to do the work cheaper than we will be doing it. And what's going to happen is that us smaller guys who don't have any particular focus or any claim to fame as a big law firm with a huge brand are going to be fighting over the scraps unless we keep an eye on those and work smarter than the alternate legal service providers. Yeah. Failure to change and adopt a more entrepreneurial approach. The reason I asked is whether somebody can tweet or whether they are on LinkedIn is because we have a bit of an attitude. I had this attitude as well, that I'm a professional with an LLB and LLM and diploma, and the work is just going to come to me. We're going to get left behind. Those other alternate legal service providers, they are not shy to market themselves. They're not shy to use technology to put themselves out there and to make themselves look better than we are. So you've got to learn to take a more marketing-oriented business development approach, be more entrepreneurial. If we don't, we're going to get left behind. There's a screen here. Wow. I can just read from there. Failure to adopt more current technology, like better devices and practice management software. I learned about a new practice, and they're not paying me anything. I was chatting a little earlier. What is the technology called? My phone's just switched off. What is the technology called? Cost recovery systems. I didn't know, and this, excuse me? Prometa. I was chatting to the lady a little earlier. I didn't know, and I thought I'm up to date on software, that there is something you can put on your computer that monitors how much time you spend on this or that or the other and actually tells you what you should be charging. I mean, if I knew that, I think I'd probably be a little wealthier than I currently am. But you need to use software. You need to use software. There was a fellow, when I was in 2000, I started at a big firm in Sandton. Doesn't matter that it was in Sandton. There was a fellow called Peter Reynolds. He was 67 at the time. I started at the firm and we were sent for training on the new computer system. Mr. Reynolds was there training, learning how to send emails and how to use his computer, even though he had the most expensive PA in the firm. Wonderful lady, Lynn, I remember. She was so heartbroken that he was going to be sending his own emails. But Mr. Reynolds was insistent on being current and up to date. He didn't think, no, I'm over the hill. I admire him, and that's where I got inspiration from. In fact, I checked his LinkedIn profile now. I pray that he's still alive. I haven't spoken to him for 3 years. He is now 89. And if you look at his LinkedIn profile, it's hilarious. It's like he's still practicing. It is this, yeah, go and check him out. Peter Reynolds. So stay up to date with software. Learn as much as you can. You can't sit on your laurels. Times are changing. Like I said, he was 67 and decided, no, I'm going to send my own emails, and went and learned how to do that. So continuous learning, please, people, you're going to be left behind if you don't stay up to date. How am I doing for time? Still okay. Okay. Yeah. So here are a couple of examples of where you should start. Now, I know we're all talking about ChatGPT, and you would be scared if you sort of did the research that I've done. For example, another alternate legal service provider, PwC. Okay, they've got a legal department. KPMG has got a legal department. Deloitte, and they've got the big brands that we don't have. So people are looking at them. PwC has just procured the exclusive rights to a piece of software. Some of you might have heard of it, called Harvey. Harvey's like a virtual, it's artificial intelligence. It's like a virtual paralegal or candidate attorney that produces what I was talking about earlier: memoranda, opinions, research, probabilities of success in litigation matters. They're not spending millions of US dollars on that for nothing. They know something. So watch out for those guys, all right? But now we can't afford to go and get Harvey. It's very expensive. Or Copilot. That's a couple of $100 a month. I would never get that. But where can we start? We can start with very basic methodologies in our practice that can help us with automation. There was a lady yesterday speaking on FICA. Do you know, I was one of the 80%, my firm, that failed that FICA audit. And we thought that we were up to date, and they're not paying me. I see she's over there, and I don't know you from a bar of soap, ma'am. I spent a week preparing that CR, what is it called? That thing. I was so proud of myself because I was an expert. I submitted it to them. Do you know what? Sorry, Mr. Pierce, still not right. Now I have to spend more time on it. If I'd known about that technology, again, I don't expect anything, or any other one that does, there might be billing programs that do that. I think there are. I would have just used that. That was a week of my time spent becoming an expert on FICA when that's not even my area of the law. So be wise, get technology that's going to help you to be more efficient. Those of you who are not using cloud storage right now, why? Why not? Is there anyone who doesn't know what cloud operating in the cloud is? Okay, good. I'm very glad. My firm, for example, has been in the cloud for 3 years. We are probably 95% paperless. So everything that we do is electronic. Yes, scary, but that goes to the other point that was spoken about earlier by, I don't remember who it was, about cybersecurity. If you're at least up to date and you have done the right things, then there's a low chance of you getting hacked. Yes, our firm, imagine if that server and wherever it is goes down. Yes, we're in trouble, but there are backups. But look, if you operate in the cloud, it goes to the point I mentioned earlier about hybrid working, because each of you, 3 in a practice, your candidate attorneys, associates, can now work remotely and have access to your information instantly. You don't need to carry a book around. There are great technologies like, again, Louis Law, doesn't pay me anything. Who knows of Louis Law? What an amazing resource. Every morning at 6 a.m., I am up to date on South Africa's most current law. Louis Law sends out synopses of cases decided in the past few days. It costs, and it's a lot of money for an attorney starting out, 1,100 Rand a year, but far less than some of the other services that we used to subscribe to. If that's too much, Safely is there online. So use technology to help your practice to be current and up to date. Laptops, phones, UPSs. The minister was speaking yesterday about the impact it has on our practice. Now, I'm not saying you do this at home, but my dad was an electrician and I went and built my own UPS. I did do some damage to other stuff initially, but it's working perfectly now. It gives me 4 hours of backup time. You don't need to be Lucien and blow up a router first. Just go and get a proper UPS. Spend that money because it's going to give you a return. It's going to allow you to keep billing your clients. So don't think it's an unnecessary expense. Hybrid working, I mentioned shared spaces. You can work together in a small space. You don't need that fancy office anymore. You don't need that firm car, actually, if you think about it. If you go to our firm's website, it's a bit of a joke, but where the recruitment page is for candidates, it used to say driver's license required. Now it's got a line through it and it says no driver's license required. We've got Uber. You build a client. And what are you saving on the insurance for that vehicle? Candidate attorneys bump cars. It's happened. And you pay. But if you've got something like Uber, no problem. So there's a huge saving there. Those are some of the tips that we've learned and we've used to save. You might say some of the older lawyers or more experienced lawyers in the office, if you're in an open plan office, are going to say, I can't concentrate with the person chewing there, and I can't concentrate with the chatter over there, and that clack, clack, clack of the old-fashioned keyboard. Noise cancelling headphones. I'm going to show you a picture in a few minutes, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Nothing. It's like being in a recording studio. It's so quiet. So there are all those tools that you can use. I mentioned collaboration with other professionals. Do that. Okay, it enhances your ability to provide services. What I didn't mention was an example of how you're going to get left behind. That fellow jumping over there, you might ask, why have I got a sportsman? He created something called what is his name? I'm just going to call him Finsbury. It's not Finsbury, but he invented a high jump style called the or something flop. And you know what? When he got to the Olympics in 1968, people saw him practicing and warming up, and they laughed at him because nobody had ever done this before. Up until that point, some of you might know, I'm not looking at the older people, I keep looking that way, I'm looking this way, that when you do the high jump, they used to do it like this, some fancy styles, and then they would dive forward and all of that. This fellow did that move for the first time. Do you know what? He won gold, and nobody ever won a medal after that by doing the old-fashioned scissors and forward dive and that. And they laughed at him for coming with something new. Don't get stuck in the past doing legal scissor high jumps. You've got to change and be like this fellow. And people might laugh at you for having a hybrid firm and not having proper offices. But you know what? They're going to be left carrying the can with that expensive bond, expensive insurance, all the space that is being wasted. Think of those ways that you can make your practice more efficient. So I have got a heck of a lot of research and articles that will expand on everything I've spoken about today. And I can make that available to you through the LSSA. I don't know how they'll get it to you, but it's amazing. If you read all of this, all written in the past 3 or 4 months since ChatGPT came out and all of us getting very afraid that our work is going to go. But if you read that, it says lawyers and legal organizations that can adapt and are proactive using a growth and learning mindset. I spoke about that, continuous learning, can turn changing market drivers into opportunities. Lawyers who are reactive, this is the people, the dinosaurs who get left behind. Okay, you only see the comet coming afterwards and you should have moved out of the way. they'll be left behind. So in a traditionally risk-averse profession, we are. Lawyers don't like change. Lawyers don't like using new technology. We want to do the same thing all the time because we're comfortable with it. But yeah, in a risk-averse profession, lawyers who don't adapt to change are making the riskiest move of all. We are going to be the illiterate of the 21st century, and we will not be those that, let me say it again. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So please, people, the law firm of the future is going to be very different to how you are practicing law. But from tomorrow, we're going to be heading in the right direction. We're going to be more profitable. You're going to be using technology like I mentioned. Use technology. It makes your life easier.